Singapore in black. So it's great to have a very special guest in the commentary box, a man who needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. Vastly experienced Asian referee based in Hong Kong, Toby Lothian. Good afternoon, Toby.
Good afternoon, Mike. How are we doing?
Not too bad. You've been watching all day. I've seen you there in the grandstand, trying to stay undercover, but what have you been thinking of the competition so far?
Oh, it's been pretty good. I mean, it's very hot out there, which puts extra pressure on the teams, but overall the standard has been really good.
So we had Alan Whitcomb in earlier talking about refereeing development. What are your comments on the refereeing standard in Asia?
Oh, look,
Look, that sounds almost Australian. You're not Australian, are you, Toby?
Good heavens,
They seem
no,
to say look every
no.
time they say something. Sorry.
British.
Yes.
British through and through.
Yep.
Oh, look, there's always room for improvement, but I think that we've got a number of good, experienced refs, and we've also got quite a few young refs who are coming through to step up to the challenge. And I think, you know, we're in the big picture, we don't do too bad.
You've been involved with quite a few seasons of the Asian 7 Series as well. How do you see the players developing?
The players? Well, I mean, I'm not really in a position to talk about the players. I'm more interested in the referees.
But as a referee, you must have seen development in the players, the physicality, the fitness, the pace of the game must have gone up in the last couple of years. I mean,
absolutely.
Certainly it seems to have affected your keeping up with the game. You've had to get fitter as well.
Yes, absolutely. And it's been good as the players have got fitter.
At 4:15 p.m. Brown Sugar will be doing a taster live set.
What makes a good referee, Toby?
So get yourself across there
a
at
number of things.
4:15.
You've got to have a love for the game. You've got
what
to
we've
know,
got coming up at 6:30 tonight.
What the players are trying to achieve, but you've got to ref within the law. There's a number of factors that always you take into consideration. You know, materiality, seriousness, etc. But if there's one thing, it's empathy for the game. That if you can get an empathy for the game, then a lot of else will go smoothly for you.
Who have been your role models as far as referees go?
Well, Bernie Feenberg was my coach for a long time, so he had a big influence. But watching test match, I think you can't go too far with people like Wayne Barnes. Steve Walsh can play reasonable at times, sometimes. But then you got the likes of Nigel Owens, Craig Joubert, all top-level refs, and you see their demeanour out on the pitch. They're just calm and in control. Nothing really excites them. They just get out there and blow what they see.
Now, you've been lucky enough to referee at quite a high level as far as Asian rugby goes. What's your approach when you're refereeing a match like this, where sometimes the girls aren't that experienced? Do you take almost not a coaching role but a guiding role in some of your comments on the field?
Oh no, I mean, you've got one problem of language, and secondly, these girls are national players, so they should know what's required of them, and your role there isn't to coach them. You can't let your own standards drop because the players that are playing maybe not as good as teams you normally ref.
We're seeing a bit of a stalemate here. It's 0-0 after 4 minutes of play. Just seeing the temperature pop up too on the score. It's 31 degrees, and I'm sure too with the
31 degrees in the shade, maybe.
Yeah, the artificial pitch is giving a lot of heat upwards too, as Singapore string together a number of passes. So obviously you've been involved with Hong Kong Rugby for a number of years. It must be great to see some of these young players coming through the system. Guys that you've refereed probably at schools level coming through to play national rugby.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the most telling one were Keith Robertson. I remember reffing him one season when he was in schools and he played really well. And then the next season, there he was playing seniors. And, just goes to show that some great things can come in small packages.
Interesting, though, even with the ability to take on full-time roles with the Institute of Sport now, a guy like Keith Robertson flying a plane now for Cathay. Is it still a shame to see these players leaving rugby, serious rugby, at this stage of their career?
I think everyone's got to be realistic. There's not the money around in Asia for them to be full-time professionals. I mean, you've got Keith Robertson, who's a pilot for Cathay.
Great try there. Let's just interrupt you there for a minute. Chan Chiao-Yu going through. Good attack there from Singapore. So they've broken the deadlock. It's 5-0 with a conversion to come. You were saying, Toby.
Yeah. And then you've got people like Rowan Varty, who's a
scored
qualified
by
lawyer.
Singapore, number 12.
I'm sure he can make an awful lot more money in the courts.
Singapore taking 5-0 lead with the conversion attempt to come.
Japan rugby changed. The whole world changed into a professional a while ago. And I think it's only a matter of time before it happens in
conversion
Hong Kong,
drops short. Singapore 5, Philippines yet to score.
Yeah, well, you're retired for a long time, that's for sure. And it's great to see players like Varty taking the chance, Jamie Hood taking the chance to become full-time players while they can.
Oh, absolutely. But, they've got something that they can fall back on after, their playing career is finished. I mean, Jamie's a full-time or is a qualified teacher. Let's say Keith's got his flying. I think most of the guys now, with this the Sports Institute, it gives them an opportunity to excel at a very high level, and then also have something to fall back on once their playing career is over.
So Philippines stringing an attack together now, 5 points down, and on the brink of half-time. Be great if they can scramble back to tie it up again. Just need to move a bit straighter and perhaps a little bit further forward. Well, here's a good run though. Starting to get a bit of pace up was Tammy Fletcher. Just couldn't break around the outside of her marker. Little goose step there. And nice work. That's what we need. Cutting inside and straightening the attack up. Good work from Tudok, who impressed in the first game actually as a good strong ball runner. She'll get the ball again. No, she skipped out. It's Tammy Fletcher who takes the ball again and just steps back and manages to move forward. Good work, but rolls just a little bit too far. And that seems to be something the referees are concentrating on today. We've seen a couple of penalties for that infraction.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, if you get tackled, momentum will take you.
Referee blows the whistle for half-time. Singapore leading the Philippines
once
by
you've done
5
one
points
roll,
to nil.
anything more than that, once the tackle's been, then we're going to be picking up on that.
Is that the most challenging part of being a referee today, that tackle area? It just seems to happen so quickly, and that instance we're talking about where you get a grounded player, the tackler has to release. The ball carrier feels the hands going off him, he thinks he's not held, he gets up again. There's so much confusion and split-second timing involved.
I would say the only confusion is people who don't understand the law. It's very simple. Your tackle's made, that's clear, it's defined in law, and you have various responsibilities once that tackle's been made. I think that, a lot of the times it may be just over enthusiasm that creates a little bit of a problem, but it's refs try not to overcomplicate matters when it's at the breakdown.
So Toby, you've been around for a while. Perhaps you're at the eve of your career. What are the plans for you in the next couple of seasons?
Oh, look, my fitness is still pretty good. I could still get around a little bit, but I've taken up a coaching course. So I'll be
referee coaching or
refereeing
coaching?
Refereeing coaching.
Yes.
Because I say there's quite a few younger guys coming through, and if I can pass on a little bit of my experience, and some of it will work for them, some of it won't. But I'd like to remain involved in rugby once I've stopped actually blowing, maybe just doing the coaching, maybe doing some sighting.
I think that's very much part of your day job as well, isn't it? Training and mentoring?
Yes, the two kind of go hand in hand, really. But yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
So even though referees require an element of impartiality, it must be a proud moment for you to see Hong Kong doing so well and striving to do their best on this circuit and get involved with the IRB circuit as well. I mean, it's very hard to separate, isn't it? If you've been in Hong Kong for so long and you have a personal relationship, even though you have to be impartial on the field, it must be interesting following the fortunes of your national team.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you can still cheer them on. But of course, we never ref them. There's always a ref who will be non-Hong Kong based who will ref them, and so you can quietly, because it never looks too good when the officials are all cheering on your own team. But I don't think anybody would deny a ref the opportunity to cheer on their own country where they're living. And
this will be interesting. What's your call from this distance?
On that distance, first call, I would have said she grounded it and then it went forward. But not the man in the middle. Macro is, and he's called a knock on.
Mustn't have just made the try line by the looks of it, yeah?
Possibly. I'm watching from 70, 80 metres away. He was from 2 metres away, so.
That's your normal range, even if you're refereeing, though, isn't it? 70 or 80 metres away?
I think
No,
that's a tad unfair. Maybe true.
I had to get
tad
one.
unfair.
I had to get one dig in, Toby. We're talking to Toby Lothian, international referee. We'll see him later, I'm sure, running around on the field. Toby, it's great to have you here. Thanks very much for your insight on the game of rugby. As from a referee's perspective, it's been really interesting talking with you.
No problems, mate. No problems.
Toby Lothian there, just one of the great personalities of Asian rugby. As we see this deadlock, or in fact Singapore ahead 5-0, but they've been penned into their own 22 in the first few minutes of the second half. The Philippines really need to translate some of this territory into points. Singapore turning, recycling the ball well. Just not gaining much territory at the moment. And here's an interesting run from a great angle for the Singapore player, and she's away in the free too, and nobody has got the gas from the Philippines to chase her, so Samantha Toe will go all the way, limping the last 10 metres on stiff legs, but she's got there. Look at that, cramping up. It's a good run from 60 metres out,
number 12.
and that has pushed the gap out to 10 points with the conversion to come. So good performance from Singapore. They look to be locked inside their own half, and with Sevens Rugby it just takes a break of the line and you can be away as she converts from
the conversion is good, and Singapore extend the lead now to 12 points to 0.
So Danny Taro, the Singapore coach, will be happy with this performance. So, of course, the law in the Sevens game is the try-scoring team will restart. And a lot of these teams have got so good at reclaiming the ball at the kickoff. See Alex McQueen from Hong Kong, and a couple of games ago, one of the great exponents of leaping in the air from a 10-metre run and regaining territory. And it's something that has transferred over to the 15s game now too. We see a lot of 15s teams trying to claim the ball from the restarts. when a lot of the time in the past perhaps you've just been resigned that apart from an error from the fielding team you'd be giving up possession as Philippines come away from this line out. A penalty against Singapore. It was a good run from Michelle Markey. San Juan, who has the unfortunate habit of just stopping after being in full flight, and so many times we've seen today her teammates just overrun it and she gets quite isolated, something I'd be trying to get out of a game. If she's pinned in, maybe just take contact and keep the momentum going. So we see a big challenge there on the Singapore player. Dragged to ground, Tudok it was, and Singapore again on the attack. Almost there, centimetres away. That time it was Ali Sudira. They're over this time. What does referee Macro say? He's gone back for a penalty. 5 metres out for the head-high tackle. But Singapore well in charge of this game. Just over a minute left, 12 points ahead. It's Samantha Toe, the try scorer in the second half, and beautiful run into the gap from Clarissa Lim. Ran herself nicely into the gap.
Try for Singapore, number 8.
Pushed herself over the line.
Clarissa
So well
Grace
done there.
Lim
Third try for Singapore.
Shichin.
Third game of the day for these young ladies, so you can just see they're all feeling a bit tired and a few stiff limbs out there. Wong Yi Lin, he's got a great boot.
And a successful conversion.
2 from 3 for her.
Singapore lead by 19 points to 0.
Just seconds left in this game. Singapore 19-0 ahead over the Philippines. Bit long the kickoff, so Philippines able to field without any pressure. It's Salinas who took it up, dumped to the ground by Ali Sudira. Good physical game from her since she's come on. Here's Annabelle Wu. Here's Ali Sudira. Going to ground again, nice pop-up. The Philippines have managed to get that ball and referee playing advantage, but decides to blow for the scrum. And that will be the end of the game. So good
referee Macro blows the whistle
Singapore.
for full time.
3 tries
the
to
final
none over
score,
the
Singapore
Philippines.
winners
Final
over the
score,
Philippines by 19
19
points to 0.